The only thing worse than getting home from a long day at work and seeing your wife in bed with the guy that you pay to clean your pool would be showing up to your fantasy football draft unprepared. And in today's video, we're going to be doing a bunch of preparing. We're going to be ranking my top 40 running backs for the 2025 fantasy football season and put them into tiers. But before we can get into things, I would like to ask that if you are new to the channel and you do end up enjoying today's video, that you please make sure to hit that subscribe button down below. And while you're down there, whether you are new to the channel or not, please make sure you leave a like on today's video. So without further ado, let's get into my top 40 running back rankings and tiers for the 2025 fantasy football season. We begin with the S tier at the running back position with my running backs 1 through 3 for the season. At number 1, we have Saquon Barkley of the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, I understand why a lot of people are moving Saquon Barkley down their fantasy football running back rankings, right? It really has nothing to do with the ability of Saquon Barkley, but it has to do with the fact that they feel as though he might end up getting hurt due to the immense amount of touches that the guy saw last season. They want to easily project a clear fall off, or they want to say that it is a stone cold lock that he's going to end up getting hurt. Now, to me, I don't think it's a lock that he ends up getting hurt, and I do believe that Saquon Barkley has the ability to continue to see this amount of touches and be able to hold up in this offense. So for me, I am not going to overthink things here with Saquon Barkley. I still want to rank him inside the top 3 at the running back position. Now, if you are someone that wants to rank Bijan Robinson ahead of Saquon Barkley, I'm not going to make too much of an argument with you because I believe heavily in Bijan Robinson as well. But for me, when you got Saquon Barkley, you're looking at one of the best, if not the best running back in the NFL, on one of the best, if not the best offenses, with one of the best, if not the best offensive line, on a team that is going to play good defense and be able to run the ball late in games. They're not going to have to be trailing late in the game, having to throw the ball a ton. So Saquon Barkley, to me, feels like a crystal clear finish for a top 5, top 3 seasons. He has been an elite running back both on the Giants and with the Philadelphia Eagles. And again, I get the touches are incredibly high, but this is a guy that could end up scoring 20 plus touches if he just gets more lucky and isn't falling over on the 1-yard line and Jalen Hurts ends up stealing that touchdown. So Saquon Barkley, to me, I get why people are concerned. There's the Madden curse, this, that, and the other thing. But to me, I'm not going to overthink greatness that is Saquon Barkley. At number 2, we got Bijan Robinson. Now, Bijan Robinson was a guy that I talked up heavily last season, hit him with the Gawk Gawk 9000 special, and obviously things ended up paying off. His rookie season was a complete disaster because Arthur Smith doesn't know his nose from his ass, right? The guy's an absolute buffoon. That didn't end up working out well for Bijan, but he came back with vengeance like he was Batman in 2024 as the running back number 3. He finished the season off incredibly strong once they transitioned from Kirk Cousins to Michael Penix Jr. He finished as the running back 8 in week 16 up against the Giants, running back 3 up against the Commanders, and week 18 he was the running back number 2. To me, if you want to be like Nick, I think Bijan is safer than Saquon Barkley, and that's why I want to take him as the number 1 back. I think that is a fine, very strong argument to make. I do believe he is the safest of the 3 running backs ranked inside of the S tier. I think the Atlanta Falcons offense has the upside to get better, and to me, Bijan is already, through just 2 seasons in the NFL, one of the best running backs in the National Football League, RB4 in Dominator rating last season, putting up almost 2,000 all-purpose yards. Final guy inside the S tier is going to be Jahmyr Gibbs of the Detroit Lions. Now, Jahmyr Gibbs, if you could just take David Montgomery out of this offense, you could just Control-Alt-Delete him from this offense, I would be sitting here banging the metaphorical drums, talking about how Jahmyr Gibbs is the running back 1 in fantasy football, because to me, that is a very strong point that you can make, because without David Montgomery, this offense is in the hands, the keys are in the hands of Jahmyr Gibbs, and Jahmyr Gibbs could score 20 plus touchdowns again in this offense if that is the scenario. But with the fact that David Montgomery is still there, and I get you can make the argument that Ben Johnson leaving the team to become the head coach of the Chicago Bears, maybe that does end up switching things up. They use David Montgomery less, but I think this is a team that wants to keep David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs being the Sonic and Knuckles of this offense, right? To have the yin and the yang, to keep both guys healthy. So I still think Jahmyr Gibbs is going to finish inside the top 3, and he does have that path to be the RB1 because even on a smaller amount of touches with David Montgomery, he could take any dump off, any run to the crib. It's just hard for me to rank him as the RB1, knowing that David Montgomery is going to have some of these games where he ends up just vulturing all of the touchdowns. But back-to-back seasons inside of the top 8 at the running back position in points per game. He is another guy that's on an elite offense. I get they have some changes on the offensive line, but I'm not too worried about that. I love Jahmyr Gibbs, one of the most efficient running backs in the National Football League, a clear top 3 running back in 2025. Now we move to the A tier with my running backs 4 through 9. At number 4, we got Devon Achane. Devon 2 Chains of the Miami Dolphins. Now, the biggest worry about Devon Achane is the health of Tua Tagovailoa, because if we get 17 games of Tua Tagovailoa, based upon the splits with Tua versus without, Devon Achane has that path to being the running back 1. And the problem is Tua is definitely more at risk when you compare him to a lot of the quarterbacks in the NFL. So that's what ultimately holds Devon Achane back from being an S-tier running back. He has been a top 6 running back in points per game through the first 2 seasons of his NFL career, even doing so with Raheem Mostert being the running back number 1 on the team. And if you look at this graph that's on your screen right now, you can see the games with Tua that are highlighted versus the games without, and clearly the path towards the running back 1 season is wide open for Devon Achane. This guy is elite in the pass catching game. He could lead the NFL at the running back position in terms of targets, receptions, and receiving yards. If this Dolphins offense goes back to what they were doing in 2023, which I believe is still in the cards for the Dolphins offense, the upside is immense. Now, if you want to be as safe as possible, you want to wrap that condom around your team, sure, maybe Devon Achane is too risky for you, but I'm risking it for the biscuit with him because the upside is just way too high. Same thing is going to be said about Christian McCaffrey, running back of the San Francisco 49ers. Now, if you drafted Christian McCaffrey last season, you are probably still walking with a limp. You still feel the effects of what Christian McCaffrey did to your fantasy football team. He took your team out back, and you are now sleeping with the fishes. But, and this is a big but, shout out to Shakira, when you're talking about Christian McCaffrey, you have to understand that the situation this year, as of right now, is that he is expected to have 0 restrictions. That's the report. It's not all of this kind of weird Riddler type of messages that we got last season. How healthy is going to be, this, that, and the other thing. And then we kind of were just like, oh, he'll be fine, right? He'll be fine. And then he wasn't. So now we have a much clearer picture, and sure, if we get to late July, August, during training camp, preseason, right, and we see that Christian McCaffrey isn't practicing, and we get these worse reports, then I'm ready to run away from the Christian McCaffrey train, but as of right now, wheels are up for Christian McCaffrey. This is a guy that has had 20-plus point per game finishes in 5 of his 8 seasons, with only top 12 finishes in years with 16 or more games. The 49ers are a wagon. I get they sucked donkey dick last season, but I believe they are way better than what we saw last season. They have one of the easiest schedules in the NFL. I get you might feel grossed out by Christian McCaffrey, but when this guy is healthy, he could be the RB1. Next up, we got Ashton Jeanty of the Las Vegas Raiders. Now, the biggest thing going up against Jeanty is the rookie note on him, right? He's a rookie, and some people have been burned by Bijan in the past. They paid that super high draft capital, and they are not confident taking Jeanty because of that, despite the fact that if Travis Hunter just didn't just exist, right? If you just Thanos snap him away from the universe, Ashton Jeanty is the Heisman. This is a guy that scored 30 fucking touchdowns last year at Boise State. He was averaging 185.8 rushing yards per game. He was running trains on these defenses so heavily that they had to bench him in the third quarter for the whole second half of games because they were up by so much because Jeanty was carrying the team. The Raiders, I get the Raiders have a stink on them, right? When you think of the Raiders, you may have been burned by players on that team in the past. You might think, sure, that is an offense that's going to be stinky, despite the fact that they bring in Geno, Pete Carroll. You know, Pete Carroll loves to run the ball. So try to get away from that narrative. Try not to worry about the Raiders. Genty is the workhorse running back on this team ahead of Raheem Mostert and friends. And just try to forget what happened with Zamir White last season. Ashton Genty is like 30 million times better than Zamir White. So I feel very confident in him. Next up, we got Derrick Henry. And frankly, Derrick Henry might be the safest running back in this tier that we have discussed thus far, because despite the fact that everyone wants to jump off of Derrick Henry because he's getting older, it's death, taxes, top 10, top 5 season out of Derrick Henry. 18 plus point per game finish in 5 of his last 6 seasons. It's the same thing we talk about with Saquon Barkley. He is on one of the most run-heavy offenses in the NFL. He is on a team that is able to run the rock late because they're up by so much. Derrick Henry could score 20-plus touchdowns this season, and no one would be surprised. Again, he's a year older. He scored 18 fucking touchdowns last season. Again, the team wants to run the ball. That is the MO of this offense. I get Derrick Henry has feet for hands, but at the end of the day, that don't matter. Still uber efficient, second in true yards per carry, third in yards per touch, first in explosive rating, 8th in dominated rating. They were the second highest team run play percentage last year, and I don't see that changing at all. Next up, we got Josh Jacobs of the Green Bay Packers. Now, the season for Josh Jacobs last year went up in flames early on, right? If you drafted Josh Jacobs based upon me recommending him to you, you felt led astray, run amok. You felt like I screwed you over, because for the first 4 games, Josh Jacobs wasn't doing jack shit, right? That first game up against the Eagles in Brazil, Jordan Love ends up getting hurt, and it's not looking good for Josh Jacobs, but eventually he picks things up despite being pretty bad for the first 4 games, let's be honest. Not going to lie to you. He starts off slow, but he finishes as the running back 8 in terms of points per game. This is a team that really likes to run the ball in the red zone, and I believe that Josh Jacobs could be top 3 yet again in terms of red zone touches at the running back position. They don't really have any of these alpha wide receivers in the red zone that are these ball hawks. Think of like Calvin Johnson, Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase. They're just going to get the fucking ball. It's not really like that in Green Bay. Sure, they have Tucker Kraft, but Jaden Riley Reed, Matthew Golden, they really aren't those guys in my opinion. Jacobs was top 5 in touchdowns last season. Still very efficient with a not so hot offensive line. I get some people are trying to project the Packers to be more pass heavy because Jordan Love is more healthy. And even if they are, I still think that Josh Jacobs is very efficient. And again, he gets a lot of red zone looks. He has decent pass catching ability. So for me, I think he's really a steal where he's going in drafts sometimes inside of the 3rd round. Final guy inside of the 2nd tier, the A tier, is going to be Bucky Irving of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now, if you asked me a couple of weeks ago, was I fully on Bucky Irving? The answer would be no. And that was not really anything to do with Bucky Irving. It was just because the team really wanted to use Rachaad White last season. They were utilizing Sean Tucker as well. And it was just very frustrating because despite the fact that on the field, we saw that Bucky Irving was clearly the best running back on this team. He had a clear leg up on the other running backs. It just didn't feel like the team wanted to push all of the chips into the center of the table onto Bucky Irving. But what we've heard from head coach Todd Bowles this offseason tells us that they want Bucky Irving to be that guy. He's increased his pass blocking, and they really do believe that he is a better running back than we saw last season. A guy that put up games with 27 plus fantasy football points. I get the Buccaneers lose Liam Cohen. He's now the head coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars, but we've seen the Tampa Bay Buccaneers kind of play, what's that game called? Musical chairs, right? With the O coordinator. They're dancing around. Baker Mayfield has had more offensive coordinators than you can count on one hand, and still the guy's productive. Still the Bucs are productive, so I'm not worried about that. Bucky Irving, another one of these guys where the efficiency has your mouth salivating. 6th in true yards per carry, 5th in yards per touch, 3rd in juke rate, 6th in explosive rating, and 2nd in yards created per touch. Moving now to the B tier, we have my running backs 10 through 12. Chase Brown is flirting to me with the tier number 2. The problem with Chase Brown for me is I don't personally think Chase Brown is as good as the running backs ranked ahead of him, but he has a very clear path towards a boatload of touches. and was just downright amazing towards the end of last season. He was the running back 14 in points per game, but 8 games without Zach Moss, he was averaging 18.9 carries per game, 5.5 targets per game, and he was the running back 1 in expected PPR points per game. So even if I don't really believe that Chase Brown is on that crazy level as a running back like Genty, Christian McCaffrey, we got to call a spade a spade. We got to be honest and say that what he did last season in a situation where we know he's the running back 1, where the coaches have given us the quotes of, hey, he's going to be our guy. Why would we not believe in that, right? In those weeks 9 through 17, where they truly gave him the load, pause, he was a top 12 running back in 6 of 8 games, top 8 in 5 of 8 games, and in half of the games, 4 of 8, he was a top 5 running back. So the skill set's there. This is a team that's defense reeks to high heaven, so that does kind of suck. They're not able to run the ball as much deep into games, but he has great pass catching upside. He's on an offense with Joe Burrow, an offense that can move the ball, so he's going to get touchdown opportunities as well, and I don't really see any of the other running backs behind him surpassing him. So if I just believed he was slightly better, I would rank him higher, but I still do have him ranked higher than consensus, and I do love him a ton. I think he's a steal inside of the 3rd round. Next up, we got Jonathan Taylor. Now, Jonathan Taylor is a very hard running back to rank for me, because if you look at his season, 11 games, so his first 11 games of the season in 2024, he was averaging 14 points per game, right? When you had him early on in the season, there was some injuries, so he didn't play a full 17 games, but in those early games, it wasn't the best. But in the playoffs, when everything matters, if you somehow got there with Jonathan Taylor, he is why you won. He was averaging 30.8 PPR points per game in the fantasy football playoffs. He was averaging 173 rush yards per game. The Indianapolis Colts are not a good offense. I don't trust Daniel Jones. I don't trust Anthony Richardson worth shit. I do not trust them at all. So that scares me. The offensive line is amazing. Jonathan Taylor is amazing. The splits scare me again with him finishing so well and not playing the best for the rest of the season, but we've seen Jonathan Taylor be the best running back in fantasy football back in 2021, his sophomore season, in not a great offense. So the upside's there, but there are a whole lot of red flags that make me very concerned when people try to draft him inside the 2nd round. I'm definitely much more open to taking him inside the 3rd round. Next up, we got Breece Hall of the New York Jumbo Jets. Now, just like Jonathan Taylor, Breece Hall was really not that good last season, if we're being honest, right? He's the running back, 17 points per game based upon where you drafted him. You were immensely disappointed, but we did get some positive reports because early on, after last season, there was a lot of talk of, hey, Breece Hall might end up losing his job. Hey, they might end up trying to use more of a running back by committee, or maybe they're just going to outright trade the guy. But then Aaron Glenn called up Breece Hall. He cleared the air. He said that, Breece, I don't want to trade you. I want you to be here. You are our running back. So despite all of this mumbo jumbo going on in the offseason, Breece Hall is still the running back 1 on the team. And again, I fully understand that Breece Hall was a disaster, a straight up disgrace for your fantasy football team last season. But to me, the eye test still shows me that Breece Hall is still a great running back. There is not the changing of coaching. This is a different team. Justin Fields, I believe, is going to dump off the ball at a very high rate. The defense could be worried about both Justin Fields and Breece Hall going to be opening up more lanes for Breece Hall to carry the ball. He is still a very great pass catcher, one of the best pass catching running backs in the NFL. And I think last year, I'm not going to say it was a fluke, but there was just a whole lot going on. There's going to be a lot more normalcy out of Aaron Glenn with the Jets compared to what we had last year. So I'm willing to buy back in on Breece Hall, despite the fact that he did rinse us last season. Next up, we move on into the C tier, headlined by Kyren Williams, my running backs 13 through 18. But before we talk about the C tier at the running back position, I would like to give you guys a quick word for our friends and our sponsor over at Underdog. Underdog has a great offer for new users today. If you sign up using promo code Notorious or by clicking on the link in the video description, you receive your free pick plus a first-time deposit offer of up to $1,000 in bonus cash. They are the best place to do best ball drafts this summer for fantasy football. If you don't know what best ball is, it's the best part about fantasy football. It's the draft and that's it. There's no waivers, no trades, and no in-season management. Underdog automatically puts the highest scores into your lineup for you at the end of every single week. It is a great way to prepare for all of your 2025 home league fantasy football drafts. Their biggest tournament, Best Ball Mania, $15 million in total prizes, $2 million to first place, $25 to enter. They also have tournaments with lower entry fees as well. So make sure you guys check out Underdog, promo code Notorious, or by clicking on the link in the video description to get your free pick plus a first-time deposit offer of up to $1,000 in bonus cash. Back on into things here, we got Kyren Williams. Now, Kyren Williams has been a top 10 points per game finisher in back-to-back seasons. The thing that concerns me about Kyren Williams is the fumbling issue. Since 2023, 4 players were tied for the most fumbles by running back with 8. It's Eckler, Stevenson, Kyren Williams are the first 3 of those running backs. So that is concerning. His fumbling issue is a large issue. They draft Jarquez Hunter. They have Blake Corum. I think Kyren could end up losing some touches, right? He was 37th in true yards per carry last season, but he got the 3rd most amount of carries, the 7th highest amount of rushing yards in 16 games, and he scored the 4th most amount of touchdowns with 16. So if you pull back the curtain and say, you know what, instead of 16 touchdowns, he scores 10 or 12, you start to see him fall off more and more. But my problem with fully destroying him in my rankings, fully dropping him down low, dropping him like it's hot, is that it just seems like Sean McVay really likes him. Because this fumbling issue is not just from 2024. It's been happening since they wanted to give him the keys to the backfield, and they're still feeding him the ball. He still lives in the end zone. So while there are a decent amount of red flags, the LA Rams could be one of the best offenses in the NFC, in my opinion, and in the NFL. They bring in Devontae Adams. This is going to be an offense that's putting up a shit ton of points. So if Kyren Williams doesn't succeed his job to the other running backs and he keeps being that guy, he probably finishes inside of the top 12. So again, while there is the worries about the touchdowns going down, while there is the worries about him potentially losing some time, just getting benched in a game because he fumbles the ball, he has butterfingers, there's also so many positives of, hey, like 2023, we're like, okay, he scored 15 touchdowns. That's going down. He can't do that again. And then he does it again. Or 16. He scores one more in 2024. So again, while there are red flags there, just seems like Sean McVay really loves the guy, so I can't really dock him too much. Next up, we got Joe Mixon, the Unk, one of the first Unks we're going to be discussing in this tier. Now, a lot of people are down on Joe Mixon for the fact, 1, he's old, for 2, he didn't hold up as well last season. His start to the season was unreal. Like, if you drafted Joe Mixon to start off the year, you were laughing straight to the bank. You thought you just pulled off a heist, like at the start of Dark Knight, right? You pulled off a heist like it was Ocean's 11, 12, or 13, right? You're thinking you just robbed the bank blind. You're getting away with it. And he gets hurt, falls off of a cliff. But he still finished inside the top 10 in points per game, 4 straight top 12 points per game finishes, and it could have been 5 straight if he just played more games in 2020. He missed 3 games with the high ankle sprain. He comes back. He doesn't necessarily look like himself, but he was 2nd in dominator rating, 8th in yards per reception, and 3rd in average defenders in the box. So even though they were loading the box, they were ready for Joe Mixon. He was still blasting the ass, getting through there. So while they bring in Nick Chubb, and sure, maybe that vultures some touchdowns from Joe Mixon, I still believe that the Houston Texans have a good offense. The offensive line's a disaster, so that's another knock against Mixon, but Mixon just keeps doing it. So while we try to make all these arguments against guys like Joe Mixon, against guys like James Conner, who we're going to talk about, against guys like Alvin Kamara, who's in this tier as well, at what point do you just say, why do I keep fading this guy? Because I keep being wrong. Now, I've always been a Mixon guy. I've always been a Kamara guy. I've always been a James Conner guy. So I haven't really ever jumped ship. I just keep banging the drum for him. It's worked for the last 5 fucking seasons. So why am I going to jump ship now? Why would I when he looked good last season? So again, is it going to be frustrating if Chubb steals a couple of touchdowns? Yes. But I don't really think Chubb is the same guy anymore. So Joe Mixon, to me, I think you're getting a steal where he is going in drafts because you don't have to draft him as the running back 14. At number 15, we got Alvin Kamara. Again, yet another unk. Just another guy. 7 of 8 seasons in the National Football League. He has finished as a top 8 points per game finisher. Last year, he was the running back 5 in points per game. He missed 3 games with a groin, and he also played through a broken hand. Despite the fact that the Saints offense was absolutely dog shit. You could smell the reek through the screen, despite the fact that they had all these different quarterbacks, guys like Spencer Rattler playing quarterback for the team. Alvin Kamara was able to prevail. He just keeps doing it every single year. He just does it, regardless of if he gets the touchdown luck or not. He's probably going to finish inside of the top 15, the top 16, if things don't even go his way. And if things do go his way, he could be a top 5 running back. Look, I get the Saints suck. Quarterback room is still disgusting. I get it. But Alvin Kamara is the focal point in this offense. 12th in dominator rating last season. 8th in explosive rating. 1st in target share. They're still going to be dumping the ball off to him at a very high rate. He had 89 targets in 14 games last season. Just taking his receiving stats, the guy might score 10 points every single game. 12, 15 points in games just by catching the ball. So again, talk about his age. Talk about, oh, they switch coaches. The quarterback room is gross. It's not good. He still just does it every single year. So just keep scooping up that value. Next up, we got Hampton. Now, I think Hampton is pretty risky for the fact that I think Najee Harris is good enough to hold a Marion Hampton back for enough weeks to where people might get nervous and they might trade him off their team. Now, to me, Hampton's going to be a clear trade target through the first couple weeks of the season because if I almost said J.K. Dobbins because he was on the Chargers last year, if we are able to see Najee hold him back for the first couple of weeks, people are going to be ready to, they're going to start panicking because even though Najee Harris is as boring as it gets, even though Najee Harris is not on the same level as Omarion Hampton, people will panic. But I think eventually as the season goes along, as you get closer and closer to the midpoint in the season, eventually Hampton will become the guy. They drafted him as the 22nd overall pick in the 2025 NFL draft. His tape at North Carolina, chef's kiss, beautiful, magnifique. He had back-to-back great seasons as a junior and as a sophomore at UNC. Chargers are a team that wants to run the football. Harbaugh is a great run game guru. So, again, while he might not finish inside the top 12 because it might take him some time to get the job, I think once he does, he could be a guy that is a league winner. And what I mean by that is, like Jonathan Taylor, in the playoffs, he could go ballistic and score 25 plus points every single game. So, when you get a good offense like the Chargers, an offense that wants to run the ball, with an offensive line that I think is good enough, I am going to be all over Omarion Hampton. Now, at some point, his price might get too high if people start to get Hampton fever, but as of right now, his price is very fair. You do have to understand, though, when you draft Hampton, starting him week 1 might not necessarily be the best thing, depending on the reports we get out of camp and all, right? If they start saying like, oh, it looks like Hampton's going to be getting maybe 50-50 early on, then we want to be drafting him even higher than this. Next up, we got Chuba Hubbard, running back of the Carolina Panthers, running back 15 last year, running back 13 in terms of points per game. In 15 games last year, 8 of them were inside the top 12, and he was doing this with Andy Dalton under center. He was doing it with Bryce Young. This was a Carolina Panthers team that was a roller coaster ride. They start off with Bryce Young, and they look terrible. They look so bad. Then they bench Bryce Young, and it's like, okay, Bryce Young's career, at least in Carolina, kind of seems over, right? When you pull the trigger on putting Andy Dalton in, like, you're kind of just fucked, right? And then Andy Dalton gets in a car crash, terrible for him. Great, though, for Bryce Young, because then Bryce Young starts to really start percolating towards the end of last season. So if Bryce Young is able to just be like a middling quarterback in the NFL, with the fact that they added in Ted McMillan, like, I think this could be a decent enough offense. And again, Chuba Hubbard was doing a lot with a little too, because the fact is the team really did kind of suck dick for a lot of last season. And still, he was able to be relatively efficient. 6th in dominator rating, 12th in true yards per carry. He is one of the best running backs in terms of running back rushing yards over expected per carry and after contact in terms of against stacked boxes. He ranked 6th against 8+ men in the box. So I really think that Chuba Hubbard could get a much more reliable season this year. In terms of the running back room, sure, they bring in Rico Dowdle, but Rico Dowdle, sure, he looked good in Dallas, and like, I think he's a good backup, right? If something was to happen to Chuba Hubbard, knock on wood, if you had Rico Dowdle, I think you'd be pretty happy. I don't think Rico Dowdle is going to magically steal the role from Chuba Hubbard as the running back number 1 on the team. Again, we saw last season that he was really good, even with the team not being so good. And I do think he is a guy that if the season goes correct, right, if the Panthers are even better than we think, like, I do think you could see a top 12 finish out of Chuba. And honestly, when you're drafting a running back as the running back 17, right, you want to be able to see that upside, right? All of the guys inside the top 18 that we're talking about, right, you can clearly see that top 12 finish outlook, at least in my opinion. Now, obviously, if you draft Saquon as the RB1 and he's the running back 12, you fucking failed, right? That's terrible, right? But I hope you understand the point, right? All these guys in the C tier, while none of them are technically ranked inside the top 12, the path is there, and that's why I have them ranked this highly. At number 18, we have James Conner. Now, James Conner famously, or maybe not so famously, because I don't know if everyone knows this, he signs a 2-year extension with the team in the middle of last season in November, $19 million. Sure, are they giving him the big bucks? Of course not, but he's a little bit older. He's James Conner. Him getting $19 million 2 years tells me that they want him to be the running back, that Trey Benson is not going to steal his job, right? Running back 15 last year in points per game. He's had 4 straight seasons with 15+ PPR points per game. And even if you are a Trey Benson enthusiast, a Trey Benson truther, you like Trey Benson. And look, I get watching the tape in college or even some of what you saw at the NFL. I can get why you might like him. But head coach Jonathan Gannon said running back James Conner is getting himself ready to carry the load for us. So yet again, James Conner is going to be the bell cow back on the Cardinals. And the Cardinals team last year was not very good. They did not live up to expectations at all. So even with the Cardinals not being good, he had 6 top 12 games last season and 8 games with over 16 PPR points. And he even finished the season really well. Weeks 14, 15, and 16. Week 17, he only plays 16% of snaps. But week 14, he's running back 7. After that, running back 1. Then the running back number 6. Again, say what you want about his age. Still pretty efficient. 11th in yards per touch. 1st in juke rate. 5th in explosive rating. 6th in yards created per touch. So again, Nick James Conner's getting older. Oh, Trey Benson, all this other stuff. Don't worry about it. Because again, it's the same shit. Joe Mixon, Alvin Kamara, James Conner. They're old, sure. But they keep doing it. So why do we keep burying them down the rankings? Like, people will just continue to do it year in and year out. Next up, we move on into the D tier here with James Cook and Kenneth Walker III, my RBs 19 and 20. Now, you could argue to put both of these guys inside of the C tier, the 4th tier. The reason why I'm kind of out on James Cook is for 2 reasons. For one, I think scoring 18 total touchdowns is just not really likely to happen again. Right? For one, they have Josh Allen, who's a great goal line quarterback. The guy is huge. He's going to get a lot of opportunities to bust that thing into the end zone. James Cook isn't that big. They also have Ray Davis as a backup running back who's pretty big, built like a boulder, built like the muscle hamster Doug Martin, baby. So that's going against him. And he scored 18 fucking touchdowns, and he was the running back 11 in points per game. You score 18 fucking touchdowns, and you're only the running back 11 in points per game? That is a huge red flag. All these alerts, wee woo, wee woo, wee woo, should be signaling around your brain the second you heard that. 200 carries, 207 carries, 1,009 yards, 18 total touchdowns. That is not repeatable. That is not very low. Sure, it is repeatable, but it's not likely to repeat, especially if you're James Cook. Now, I was banging the drum for James Cook last season. I was talking about how I think James Cook could score 10+ touchdowns, and he didn't so far in his career. But I think the number 18 is going to go down, and if that just falls, right, if he just scores 10 touchdowns or 13 touchdowns, he's fallen outside the top 12 in fantasy points per game at the running back position. I just don't like that. I just don't trust it. Again, the Bills are a great offense. I think James Cook is fine. He's a fine running back. There's this contract situation going on with him as well. I don't see him as like this guy getting the most amount of carries at the running back position. He was 19th in carries last year. So again, if the touchdowns just fall apart a little bit, you're going to see him come falling down like Humpty Dumpty off the wall in terms of his fantasy finish. So drafting, again, I get he was a top 12 running back last year in points per game, running back 8 last year in PPR. But you got to peel back the curtain. You got to look behind and be like, okay, 18 total touchdowns, probably not happening again with James Cook. Now, with Kyren, we already talked about him earlier. I could see Kyren somehow just scoring fucking 16 touchdowns again. I could. I don't think that's very likely for Mr. James Cook. Next up, we got Kenneth Walker III. Now, when Kenneth Walker is healthy, to me, when you watch him, he looks good. But based upon what we saw last season, to me, Zach Charbonnet is on a pretty similar level to Kenneth Walker. So while I think week 1, you would be stupid to bet on Zach Charbonnet to be the running back 1 on the team. But if Kenneth Walker starts getting hurt again, or if he starts off slow, I could see them pulling back on Kenneth Walker and giving more touches to Zach Charbonnet. 11 games played last year, 2 games missed with the oblique, 2 games with the calf, 2 games missed with the ankle injury. He was 5th in juke rate, but he was 57th in true yards per carry. And sure, maybe all those injuries slowed him down. Kenneth Walker's been hurt in the past as well. Again, I think the talent's there, and I actually think the Seattle Seahawks are going to be a decent team. Like, they're not going to be the worst. They're not going to be the best, though. They're going to be down in games. I like Kenneth Walker's receiving ability. I think he's fine, but he's kind of an all-or-nothing running back. And what I mean by that is you're either getting it all with the carry, right, where he's going 15 yards, he's going 20 yards, he's juking some guy out of his socks, he's stiff-arming Buddy to middle earth, he's do-si-doing past 7 dudes, hurdling them like Saquon Barkley and running into the end zone. He's doing some shit out of NCAA football, something crazy like you're playing on arcade mode, like you're playing NFL Street, or there is 7 dudes circling him like his name was Lily Phillips, and he gets tackled behind the line of scrimmage, right? It's either all or nothing. And while I think Kenneth Walker is talented, again, I don't think Seattle's going to be great. And I think Zach Charbonnet could take the job. I've been out on Kenneth Walker for a while, and it's worked every year, so why would I dive in now? Next up, we got the E tier with my running backs 21 through 29. This is a loaded tier. In my opinion, if we're just looking at the tiers, the S tier, the A tier, the B tier, those are all guys where if they're your running back 1, you're feeling, the first 2 tiers you're feeling really good about. The B tier, it's okay, right? Then the C tier, it's like, you want those guys to be your running back 2. Same thing with the D tier, more lower end RB2s. And now we're kind of in the range where I could see top 24 season out of these guys, but there's a lot more question marks when you're comparing them to the first 4 tiers, in my opinion. Now, David Montgomery. I talked about the fact that Ben Johnson is now the head coach of the Chicago Bears with Jahmyr Gibbs, so maybe that does end up deflating the value of David Montgomery. But we also could just see it being the exact same thing that it's been over the last 2 seasons with Gibbs and Montgomery, where Montgomery kind of vultures some touchdowns. Montgomery gets whole quarters where it's just him carrying the ball. But ultimately, Jahmyr Gibbs is the fun one, like the guy that could be the RB1 multiple weeks in a row, whereas I don't think Montgomery has that upside. But if Montgomery is your RB2 every single week, he's just putting in that work. Running back 16 points per game last year, running back 15 in points per game in 2023. He did miss 3 games with a knee injury. So again, while David Montgomery isn't the sexiest running back in the NFL, you don't put on his tape and you're like, wow, oh wow, this is one of the best running backs in the NFL. He's on a great offense with a great offensive line that's going to score a bunch of fantasy points, going to score a bunch of real points, and going to be up in games where they can hand the ball to a guy like David Montgomery. So while I definitely feel less confident than last season on Montgomery, just because of the fact that they did lose Ben Johnson, I still think the offense is going to be electrifying, one of the better ones in the NFL. And I still think he finishes as a top 24 running back, even if this is his worst season yet in terms of points per game finish. Like, if you have to play him in your flex any given week, you could talk about how, hey, maybe he just scores 2 touchdowns in this game, scores me 20 plus points, and is the reason why I win that week. Next up, we got Isaiah Pacheco. Now, I think Isaiah Pacheco is very clearly going to keep rising up fantasy football ADP, fantasy football draft boards. For one, he's on the Chiefs, right? And if you could just pick the Chiefs RB1 on one of the best offenses in the NFL, you're going to be very happy. And for 2, people are going to just come to the realization that, I don't know why my voice just did that, while Rashad Smith is this exciting player they drafted in the 7th round, backfield is Isaiah Pacheco's to lose, right? And then they're going to start to realize, And maybe the reason why last season he didn't perform all that well is because he, broke his fucking lower leg in week 2 and missed 9 games. Then he came back, and sure, he was terrible when he came back, but he came back after missing 9 games from breaking his fibula. So maybe it's not very likely that he's just that bad, and maybe, just maybe, he didn't perform well because he was hurt, right? It doesn't take some mathematician, some rocket scientist, Albert Einstein, to figure out that that's probably why he didn't finish the season out well. Not because he's washed after being in the NFL for 3 years, but because of the injury. He was the running back 14 in points per game back in 2023. And again, you're getting him a lot of the times outside the top 24 at the running back position. Now, again, there are issues, like maybe Pacheco comes back and he isn't the same, right? Maybe we start hearing in training camp he doesn't look this good, and it's like, okay, then we panic. But right now, I'm thinking if you're drafting an underdog, you kind of want to be drafting him now before all of those news blurbs at promo code Notorious, or click on link in the video description for your first deposit bonus offer of up to $1,000. But legitimately, his ADP could move up very high based upon people talking about how, oh, he looks healthy. And then once that starts to happen, people want the Chiefs running back 1. So I think he is a steal right now in drafts. And he started off the season with a boatload of touches early on in the year. So I think when he comes back, he's going to just clearly be the guy. Next up, we got Quinshon Judkins. Now, if you took him and just put him on a different team, that's not the Cleveland Browns, I think people are jizzing in their pants like that Lonely Island song thinking about Quinshon Judkins, because the guy was fantastic in college at Ohio State. He was originally at Ole Miss in 2022 and 2023. He was a second-round pick, 36th overall pick in the 2025 NFL Draft. His best season was actually his freshman year back at Ole Miss. Now, he has some competition. He's got Jerome Ford, F-150. They drafted Dylan Sampson, who a lot of people like. But to me, Judkins will eventually, the cream rises to the top, right? He is the best running back in this backfield. Now, if you drafted any of the running backs last year for the Cleveland Browns, it did not go good. None of them really worked out. I get that the quarterback situation is a clusterfuck, to put it simply. Joe Flacco, small hands Kenny Pickett. They've got perfect timing, Shadur, Sanders, Little Dion. They got the other guy from, why am I forgetting his name? They drafted another quarterback as well, Dylan Gabriel, which is just crazy to do, and then draft Shadur. But it is what it is, right? Quarterback situation is gross, but Judkins, to me, looks like the kind of guy where it's like Gibbs, right? Where maybe he's not put in the best positions, but they dump the ball off to him, he takes it straight to the crib, or they hand him the ball, and he runs 80 yards directly into the end zone. Now, if you're comparing the Browns to the Lions, like, it's not even fucking comparable, right? It's night versus day. But I think that crazy upside is there for Judkins if Flacco is able to corral this team into playing well, or any of the quarterbacks. We've seen running backs really flourish under Kevin Stefanski and the Browns. Now, that was Nick Chubb, and I'm a big 9-inch Nicholas Chubb guy, but Judkins is very talented as well. Again, the biggest question mark here just is how good are the Browns, and how does this split turn out? Like, is this heavily in Judkins' favor? Because if it is, even on a shitty team, right, people will be like, oh, you don't draft players on bad teams. Well, sometimes running backs are on really bad teams, and it still ends up working out very, 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 very well for them. Think about Saquon and the Giants. I mean, come on. Next up, we got Caleb Johnson, another rookie, 83rd overall pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, 3rd round draft capital. Great player at Iowa. Now, to me, Caleb Johnson, people are discrediting him because they like Jaylen Warren, right? Oh man, I'm so excited for Jaylen Warren because, oh man, you look at those efficiency stats, man, Jaylen Warren's really good. And sure, I get that, right? If you're an efficiency metrics guy, you like to crank off to those numbers. Rightfully so, I like efficiency stats as well. But let's be real. Said this term a lot. Let's be honest. If you look at Jaylen Warren over his NFL career, what has changed to make him the running back 1, right? He was always better than Najee, and the team never let him be the guy. So even if you think he's better than Caleb, what makes you think Arthur Smith is changing his mind waves? His mind is magically going to change to go for a different running back. It's not. That's not going to happen. It's going to be Caleb Johnson. Maybe it takes a week or two, but it's going to be Caleb Johnson. Arthur Smith loves to run the ball. Sure, he might absolutely kerplat the value of Caleb Johnson like he did to Bijan, but I think he is going to be smarter this time. Maybe that's stupid to think fucking Arthur Smith's going to be smart, right? That kind of is a stupid bet, but you get what I mean, right? He kind of like Tyler Algier. Okay? I don't think he likes Jaylen Warren because he just didn't use him last year. So why would you think he liked him? So again, there are definitely risks there. Arthur Smith himself, but I think Caleb Johnson's upside is very good with Aaron Rodgers in his age. Next up, we got Aaron Jones. Now, Aaron Jones just kind of feels like the most boring pick you can make at the running back position, or one of the most boring picks. Not because he's bad, but because they signed Jordan the numbers Mason. What do they mean? And maybe Jordan Mason just vultures a bunch of the touchdowns. Like, Aaron Jones was already not a guy that just lives in the end zone unless he's going up against the Cowboys, because that dude just always drops the people's elbow down on the Cowboys. He's the owner of the Dallas Cowboys. It's Jerry Jones and Aaron Jones' son, I guess. He was good last year. He was fine. He was the running back 20 in points per game. I think the offense is going to be similar with Sam Darnold or JJ McCarthy. Like, the switch doesn't really mean too much. Like, I just think their head coach, Kevin O'Connell, is just a quarterback whisperer. So if it was like me or you out there, the offense would still end up working. Again, he's going to see a bunch of carries. He'll be top 12 in carries. But even if the receptions are there, I just don't really see the touchdowns greatly increasing over 7. And he's just kind of okay. So if you draft Aaron Jones, you kind of just know what you're getting every week. I just don't, like, if you compare him to Pacheco, Judkins, Caleb Johnson, like, I could see those guys having those crazy big seasons. Like, same with Montgomery, like if Jahmyr Gibbs was to get hurt. But Aaron Jones with Jordan Mason there, I don't really see that path. Next up, we got DeAndre Swift. Now, DeAndre Swift does feel a little bit more risky than Aaron Jones because DeAndre Swift didn't really look good last year, but DeAndre Swift has worked with Ben Johnson before, and I think the team wants DeAndre Swift to be the guy because, sure, they still have Roshan, and they draft Kyle Monagai, pause, but yeah, they draft him, Monagai, and Anakat, and it didn't really, like, that doesn't bring me, like, worries. Like, they didn't bring in J.K. Dobbins or something. So I think Swift's going to be the guy. I think the Bears increase, but Swift looks like dog shit last year, so I don't think I could push him much higher than this, even though I do really like him. Like, I do think he's a steal where he's going because of the fact that I think Caleb Williams is going to get better, because I think the offense is going to get better, because I think he's clearly the running back number 1. But this dude was 59th in true yards per carry last year, so I don't want to get too high on him when I think me putting him at running back 27, if you like Swift, you'll probably end up drafting, or running back 26, you'll probably end up drafting him a decent amount because of where I have him ranked versus where I think a lot of the consensus will. Next up, we got RJ Harvey of the Denver Broncos. Now, prior to them bringing in J.K. Dobbins, the wheels were up for RJ Harvey. I was slobbering on this guy's knob like corn on the cob. You're talking about the running back 1 on a Sean Payton offense. And that was so exciting. But J.K. Dobbins, he'll probably get hurt tying his shoes or something in like week 6 and be done for the season. Knock on wood, we don't have injuries. But that's just always what happens with J.K. Dobbins. Then eventually RJ Harvey will take over. But I think J.K. Dobbins is honestly good enough where he could be the RB1 for a majority of the season. And we don't really see RJ Harvey pay off in full. Paid in full, Dustin Poirier. I just don't think that'll be as likely to happen anymore. Again, Harvey has that league-winning upside because he's on the Denver Broncos. He's with Sean Payton, who's been associated with so many great running backs over his illustrious career, right? But when you have to actually make the pick, to me, the fact that J.K. Dobbins is there does really fuck up my projections of the guy, even though I do think he's a very talented running back. He was drafted in the 2nd round. Next up, we got Tony Pollard. Now, I am all aboard it's Tajay Spears season, but Tony Pollard just kind of always rushes for 1,000 yards when he's given the opportunity. And they're going to get better with Cam Ward under center versus with what Will Levis is, right? So while Tony Pollard did bust a couple of years ago, coming off of a big injury in Dallas, I just think he's going to probably finish somewhere from running back 30 to 24. But I do really like what I've been seeing out of the Tajay Spears. Hey, they want to make this more of a 50-50 type deal, what Brian Callahan is saying. And if that really is the case, I don't think we should be all wheels up, all steam ahead for Tony Pollard. So I am a little bit more nervous than I was a couple of weeks ago with Tony Pollard. Next up, we got Brian Robinson Jr. He got shot, but he's still breathing. Brian Robinson, another one of these kind of boring picks, in my opinion. He's the number 1 running back on a great offense with the Commanders. They are not really going to succeed his work to someone else, but he's not really a great pass catcher, but he's going to get a decent amount of looks in the red zone to score touchdowns. They do bring in Debo, which does concern me enough not rank him higher because I do think Debo could steal some goal line work, and I almost called him Jalen Daniels. Jaden Stormy Daniels can also carry the ball inside of the red zone. So there's enough worries to not rank him super high. But again, if you have him as your flex a certain week, or if you got to start him as your running back too, like there's a lot of worse options than him. Next up, we move on into the F tier with Travion Henderson and Tyrone Tracy. Now, Henderson, I want to love Henderson because I think he looks really good at Ohio State. I think he's very talented, but they paid Ramondre Stevenson recently, not last year, but the year prior. And that does make me a little bit worried about, is Travion Henderson really going to clearly be the bell cow on the team? Like, I think Stevenson could hold him off enough. And I don't really see Henderson as like this big running back that's going to get a lot of red zone opportunities like I can see for Ramondre Stevenson. Now, if you're in a best ball draft and you draft Henderson where he's going on underdog, promo code Notorious, I get it because of the upside in any given week because he's so fast. He's like that Gibbs type of build. But the problem is, when you actually have to play him every single week, I think it's going to be very tough to do. And just let me just be honest here, and I've said that a million times. Let's just think, while everyone is getting down on their knees for, oh my gosh, Mike Vrabel, the Patriots, what if it just doesn't work? Right? What if maybe they're just kind of not great again? And then you draft Henderson, it just kind of doesn't work. That's really worrying me. Now, again, these rankings are all subject to change, right? It's still it's early to middle July, right? In August, we're going to have a lot more context, and maybe Henderson's clearly the guy, and it's like, okay, Henderson, I really think is talented, so let's skyrocket him up the ranking. But right now, I'm just not really thinking that. Next up, we got Tyrone Tracy. Cam Scatterboo is drafted by the team. I'm a scat man, the Giants quarterback situation is not the best, but it's better than what we saw last season with Horsecock, Drew Lock, and friends. Tyrone Tracy is just fine. He, I think, is better than people give him credit for. I think he could be really good, but the problem is the offensive line isn't great. So where you're getting him late in drafts, I'm fine drafting him there. I do like him there because I do think he could really just be the RB1 all season, and maybe just because you watched all those crazy runs in college of Scatterboo, the guy's kind of slow, so I think this could be a good season out of Tracy, but I'm not going to get too overzealous with my rankings of him, again, just kind of because the Giants do gross me out. Now we move on into the G tier, and this is where things really start to fall off for me. Like, again, if you have to draft Travion Henderson, that's fine, but like, now if you're really relying on these guys most weeks, like, I don't feel good about it. Travis Etienne could be the RB1, he could be the RB3. The most recent report kind of was like, Travis Etienne's the guy, but is he really? Like, that report that I read did not seem very positive on Etienne. Etienne sucked ass last season. The Jaguars weren't very good. Injuries all around. I think Bigsby could be the guy, but Bigsby's been dealing with fumble issues dating back to college. I think the Jaguars will be good, so you probably want it, or decent enough. Like, you want to be taking shots on these guys, but being like, oh man, you really need to get Etienne as of right now just seems like a fucking ludicrous take. Next up is Najee. Again, one of those sexless picks. You just draft Najee, and you know what you're getting. Like, he's going to get you 12 points probably every game early on in the season, and then eventually he's going to get surpassed by Omarion Hampton, and then you're never going to need him again. So he's just a handcuff. Then we got Tajay Spears, who I really like, but we heard that 50-50 narrative going into last season with Brian Callahan, and it didn't work. He said it again a couple of days ago. In a perfect world, he sees a bigger division of labor. We can do a better job managing the load and getting them to play more evenly. Now, we did see some big bursts out of him last season. Week 15 up against the Bengals, 27.2 PPR points. Week 16 up against the Colts, 21.6 PPR points. So we know he can do it if he gets 10 plus touches. But the question is, will they ever actually fully commit to that being the case? And I don't think I can strongly say that enough to rank him higher than this, even though I haven't ranked much higher than expert consensus. Next up, we got J.K. Dobbins. He feels like the kind of guy that could stave off R.J. Harvey, but you know he's going to get hurt. Knock on wood, I don't want him to get hurt because I've been jamming J.K. Dobbins in my drafts, but I've said it a million times. Let's be real. The guy always gets hurt. The upside's there. We saw it. He came out the gate last season, 22 PPR points, then 20. Then he had a game with 24, 18, 15, right? Like the high highs are there. Will we see it consistently, though? I don't know, but he's on Denver, a great team. So if he could just be the RB1 early on in the season, he'll probably finish inside the top 40. And honestly, J.K. Dobbins, week one, out of like Travion Henderson, Tracy, I'd feel pretty confident if we knew Dobbins was the guy week one, ranking him above them for week one. Like, I think he'll be ranked really much higher. I don't know who they're playing week one, but if it's a fine enough matchup, I think I could see him being ranked inside the top 24 for week one, and then we'll see what happens after that if he does become the guy. And again, last year up against stacked boxes, he was dominant. He was number one in rushing yards per carry up against 8+ men in the box. Next up, we got Ramondre Stevenson. I think he's going to get a lot of touchdowns in this offense if they do end up as a good team because of how the backfield shakes out with him and Henderson. The 4-year, $36 million deal that he signed prior to last season makes me believe that he's still a part of the plan. But again, Henderson's going to be taking a lot of the receiving opportunity. He's going to be getting more of the carries. So Stevenson feels like one of those Hail Mary plays where if Henderson's healthy, you just play him and he scores like a touchdown or two and you're happy. Otherwise, though, I don't really see him being super effective game in and game out for fantasy to where you really want to be playing him. Next up is Javonte. Whoever the running back one is in Dallas, if we can ever figure that out, I want to be drafting him. With that said, Javonte Williams absolutely fucking sucks. Javonte Williams has not lived up to expectations at all coming out of college. He has not been that guy in Denver. I don't project that he's that guy in Dallas. I started to like him towards last season after fading him forever. He absolutely raw dogged me in the ass without the use of lube, metaphorically, of course. They've got Miles Sanders, Bonnie Blue's brother, Jaden Blue. I think maybe this is the season where he finally figures it out, but why would I ever bet on that? Final guy in this tier is Jaylen Warren. Nick, Jaylen Warren's going to be the running back one on Pittsburgh. That's what everyone's going to say. Everyone's going to say, Nick, your ranking of Jaylen Warren is absurd. It is ludicrous. You can't rank Jaylen Warren that low. It's fucking stupid. You're an idiot. Blah, 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 blah. Why would you rank him higher? If Caleb Johnson gets hurt, then I'm going to be banging the drum for Warren because I like Warren. 13th in yards per touch, 9th in yards per carry, but they never give him the ball. It doesn't matter if Najee Harris is the epitome of the most boring running back you've ever watched step foot on the NFL gridiron. It does not matter because the team doesn't like Jaylen Warren. Arthur Smith doesn't like Jaylen Warren. Maybe Warren fucked Arthur Smith's wife. I have no idea why this keeps happening. Maybe he's plowing Tomlin's wife as well. I don't know. Because it makes no sense. So Jaylen Warren, he's the running back 38. Sue me. I'm not drafting him. His ADP is stupid in my opinion. He's going behind Caleb Johnson in a lot of drafts. Final two guys inside of the H tier. We've got Charbonnet and Jordan. The numbers, Mason, what do they mean? Charbonnet is just a handcuff, even though I think he's better than Kenneth Walker. Jordan Mason, if something happens to Aaron Jones, you're going to be feeling very nice on Jordan Mason. If nothing happens, though, you're kind of not really ever going to know when to start him, but he is going to score a decent amount of touchdowns. Thank you guys all so much for watching. If you ended up enjoying today's video, make sure you guys hit that subscribe button like it owes you some money. Leave a like on today's video. It would help me out a ton. If you want to follow me on Twitter or X, please do so at NotoriousFantasy and check out one of the videos on our screen. If you have not seen them already, make sure you guys do check out Underdog, promo code Notorious, or by clicking on the link in the video description, and check out one of those videos on our screen if you haven't seen them already. I love you long time. Have a great one, and as always, good boy!